Time now to bring in our weekly backbench panel. Labor MP for Chisholm, Karina Garland, and Liberal MP for Menzies, Keith Wallahan. Hi there, Karina and Keith. Happy Friday to you both. Let me start by asking you, Keith, about the nuclear plan, the new modelling that came out. Now, energy companies don't buy into nuclear for Australia. Of course, the current government doesn't. Why is the coalition so big on nuclear?
We are big on nuclear because 19 out of the top 20 economies are big on nuclear. There is no country on earth that has a renewables-only approach, that has cheaper power, that is reliable. And let's look over the horizon to the future. When you look at the city that we're dialing in from in Melbourne, it is projected to have a population the size of London by 2050. So we have to ask, how are we to power our hospitals, our schools, our industry, and our homes? And a renewables-only approach won't work. So what we're advocating for is a renewables plus nuclear approach. And there's no way to skin this. The energy transition is going to be expensive. It's expensive on renewables only, and of course it's expensive with nuclear plus renewables. But on the nuclear plus renewables, it's also reliable, and it will make us a superpower in that area, and that is important for our national interest.
Karina? What do you think of the latest numbers that show our ordinary householders' power bills could go up with nuclear?
Oh, those figures are absolutely eye-watering. While the nuclear plan is really just a concept of a plan, let's be honest, I think it's really important that we look at these figures carefully. And I know that these figures have not come from the coalition. We're still waiting for the figures from the coalition. So perhaps Keith will be able to enlighten us next week. But what I do know is what our government is doing to bring down prices for households. So every household is getting $300 off their power bills, and eligible businesses will be getting $325 off their bills. We know renewable energy is the cheapest form of energy, and renewable energy is happening right now. We've greenlit so many projects, enough to produce the equivalent energy of 8 reactors, whilst the coalition plan, not only are the costs we're seeing from an independent institute quite alarming, we haven't got the coalition's costs, we also don't have a serious plan, and that's what experts are saying, and I believe what the experts' advice is rather than the advice we're getting from Peter Dutton.
Keith, are we going to hear any details? Especially numbers out of Peter Dutton at that think tank event on Monday?
Of course, in due time, we will present the full details to the Australian people, and we'll do those in a considered, methodical way. But let's talk about numbers. We have this government's numbers in. Power bills have risen by $1,000, despite promises to cut them by $275. So the idea that, well, the talking point is renewables are the cheapest form of energy, well, when people open their bills, they know how much they're costing. So, of course, renewables are a key part of our energy transition. No one is saying otherwise, no one credible. But you must have some baseload power. You have to have it. And we saw an example in Queensland where there wasn't that reliable baseload power in 2022 and prices skyrocketed. And let's talk about this study. Of course, there are studies that will be produced by other think tanks. But this one is a flawed study. It did leave out cheaper reactors that were in the UAE and South Korea. So, of course, we'll look at the detail of other attempts to model this. But again, I go back to my original point. This is an expensive endeavour. The energy transition is an expensive and complex endeavour. But we must be upfront with the Australian people that you can either do it in a way that doesn't have reliable baseload power with renewables only, or you can have reliable baseload power. And we will need that as the population grows.
Karina, we've just heard from Prime Minister Albanese, who is in Philadelphia, and also he'll be travelling on to attend the Quad Leader Summit, about our strong ties with the US. But there are criticisms that now our foreign policy is perhaps too tied to the US. Your thoughts?
Look, the Quad Summit brings together leaders, obviously, from 4 different countries. This is a really important forum, but it's not the only forum that Australia participates in. We'll be having a range of other forums. I know that ASEAN and a whole range of other events have been regularly attended by our Prime Minister. he's been really clear that it's very important to build really strong regional connections whilst maintaining other relationships we have right across the globe. And I think that's exactly what he's doing.
Keith, is that really possible to maintain strong relationships with, for example, the US and also the region?
It is, and we must pursue those relationships because that's in our national interest, and for a peaceful world, dialogue is always important, and dialogue with security partners through the Quad or AUKUS are key to our national interest. So it is good that the Prime Minister is at this forum and engaging in the way that he is. But this isn't just, the Quad isn't just a security partnership, it's also about technology, and there's other trade links to it. So we do welcome this, and we do support the Quad along with AUKUS.
Karina, I know that you're very much about higher education, especially given your electorate. Your thoughts on calls by the coalition for the government to conduct this judicial inquiry into anti-Semitism on campus?
Oh, look, I think from the outset, let's be clear that anti-Semitism has no place in any part of our community. And I think our government has made that really clear. And in my own electorate, there was some really repulsive graffiti on a local Jewish school. And I attended that school with the Deputy Prime Minister to call that behaviour out. So I just want to make that really clear at the outset. I understand that the Senate is undertaking an inquiry at the moment to determine whether that's necessary. Our government hasn't waited to take action on anti-Semitism, and we've appointed a special envoy, but let's see what the recommendations from that special envoy are and what we hear through various inquiries. But I would say we're not hesitating to take action on anti-Semitism in any part of the community, and we're not just singling out individual sectors.
Well, the envoy is calling for this judicial inquiry.
So, no, I'm just saying we're already taking action. I don't know why we need a specific inquiry into a specific sector when we've appointed a special envoy to look at eliminating anti-Semitism. And we've been supporting communities not just in higher education, but across a range of sectors where we've seen this terrible behaviour called out. We've made laws to combat hate speech and symbols that really...
Keith, do you think more could be done?
No, of course we need a judicial inquiry, and let's remember the purpose of a judicial inquiry. It is to compel vice-chancellors and their key administrators to appear and answer questions, and it is also there to compel the production of documents. At the moment, the Senate only really has unique powers for those universities that are contained within Canberra. So a judicial inquiry is needed, and particularly given the importance of higher education here in Victoria, I would ask the government, well, what have they got to fear in a judicial inquiry? And the answer would be an interesting one, and it should be nothing. So let's have it.
OK, great. Thank you for your time, and hope you enjoy your weekends. Labor MP for Chisholm, Karina Garland, and Liberal MP for Menzies, Keith Wolahan.